Okay, so today we're going to talk about Module 3. This is Draca, and that's Halo. They're to my friends. And she wants to be right in my face for some reason. But the Board of Brown versus the Board of Education was in 1954 ordered the end of the state mandated racial segregation of public schools. This triggered a revolution in the civil rights movement. Professor Herbert Wechsler, a law professor of Columbia University, joined the NAACP. Sorry. Charles Houston, Chief Justice Marshall, stated that's emphatically the province and the duty of the judicial department to say what the law is. We had what they called busing, which was where black students you stop were bused to predominantly white schools, which were studies were conducted in Riverside, California, Ann Arbor, Michigan, White Plains, New York. Bus students were likely to support the idea of black power and the control black students going from 11 points in 69 to 36 points in 70 in a survey. Arthur Griffin and Charlotte in West Charlotte schools, was a student that was on there, and he was originally one of the students that got buzzed. But in Charlotte, they had taken predominantly black students, or white students, and sent them to a predominantly black high school, and then took them, and Charlotte High School became very famous for this because normally it was black students being sent to a white school. Instead, it was white students being sent to this black school. And at first, they had some issues. There was some violence, and the kids had some problems. But basically, this high school changed overnight. They learned how to integrate, they learned how to get along, they learned how to become friends and everything else. Even in all their problems, they still managed to make everything work. We talked about the Little Rock Nine, which was 9 black students who was enrolled in Little Rock Central High School in 1957. Their enrollment was followed by the Little Rock Crisis, which students were initially prevented from entering a racially segregated school. The governor in Arkansas said that they shouldn't be allowed, and eventually later Dwight D. Eisenhower said that the Army could escort them in, and so they had all kinds of problems and everything else. We talked about being separate but equal, which is racially segregated but assuming equal opportunities to all races, was a legal doctrine in the United States constitutional law that did not violate the 14th Amendment, but which guarantees equal protection to all people under the law. We talked about racial segregation is the separation of the people into racial and other ethnic groups into daily life. It may apply to using the public toilet, from drinking from a water fountain, heading to school, or riding the bus. This was a big deal in which many cases that this was allowed. We also talked about the racial desegregation, which was the process of ending the separation of the two groups, usually referring to race. This happened in the U.S. after the Civil Rights Movement. Halo, get down. We talked about the Mahoyan, I think that's how you pronounce that, report, which was a report written by an American sociologist in 1965. He had studied the deep roots of black poverty. And I really found this report to be very interesting. He was having people argue that having no father or husband and, you know, their role was what was leading black youth to be in crime, or, you know, that was what was causing all the poverty and everything else. But he argued that just single mothers was not the only cause of that. You know, he argued that um, just because that there wasn't a man there or anything else, that wasn't the destruction of the culture. Um, but it also found that there was more divorce rates, dropout rates, crime rates, drug abuse, crime in youth. And with somebody who works in a juvenile detention center, he found out that more blacks are predominantly in prison systems. And coming from my job in a youth detention center, our facility is more predominantly black. And if you go and research their statistics and their studies and their cases, a lot of them come from families that don't have fathers or father roles, or husbands, and, you know, with their single moms. They live below the poverty level. And so I found this report to be very interesting because it can relate to my job in so many different ways, and can give me a different way to actually talk to our kids at work, you know. And they know that I'm taking this class, and they actually find that it's very interesting, all the stuff that I've learned from this class so far. Because to most of them is I'm just another white person that doesn't understand anything about black history. And the stuff I have learned from this, and I've taken and used this, and the stuff I've already known I've taken, and, you know, this class has really opened my eyes up to a lot of things that blacks have gone through. So I hope you enjoyed this video. And seeing Drake up there. Say hi, Layla.